Welcome to the Roost News, the place for all things volunteer. I'm Susan DeCamp, team member for the Roost News. I welcome Jen Beam, AARP Director of Advocacy, Social and Digital Marketing, and Amanda Knowles, AARP Senior Director, Social Media and Content Integration. Thank you for being our Roost News podcast guest today. Our topic today is AARP social media, digital marketing, and integration. To our listeners, AARP staff and volunteers, we'll hear about this program in just a few minutes. But first, I would like for each of you to share a little bit about yourself. I gave titles during the introduction. Could you please share in a few statements what that title covers for your role with AARP? How long have you been with AARP, and why did you choose AARP?
Great, I can go first. Thank you so much, Suzanne. I've been with AARP for a very long time. I first started in 1999 as a temp in the former Northeast Regional Office and spent most of my official career started in the Massachusetts office. So I go way back before social media even started, which is pretty funny to think about. So I have been in the campaigns department, the national campaigns department for the past just over 10 years. So I'm a teleworker in New Hampshire. And I run this small and mighty team that covers all of our advocacy priority issues. So think lowering prescription drug prices, fighting to protect Social Security, think supporting family caregivers. So anything that we're doing on the federal or the state level on the advocacy, we're right in there helping to share that on social media. So we have the AARP Advocates channels. We're mostly on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And then we also support all the states. So, all the states have amazing social accounts too. They cover a lot, but we help support their advocacy content as well.
Great. How about you, Amanda?
Hi, thank you for having me today. I have been at AARP for a very small time compared to Jen. I've been here since 2020. I started in January of 2020, right before we all went home for the pandemic. So it's been an interesting ride these past 4 years. I work on the brand social team, and my little part of that team oversees the flagship social media channels. So anything that's just at AARP on social is my team, across Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, and TikTok. And we cover all of AARP's core issue areas from health and fraud, savings and planning, caregiving, work and jobs, as well as some of the other issues that are just of importance to our audience, from travel, entertainment, events, all sorts of things, working with different groups across the organization who create content from video, the .org journalists, also working with creative agencies to develop, social first content to reach and engage our audience across all of those different channels.
Great. Thank you, Amanda. I know both of you have very important jobs, especially right now. We are transitioning to more and more digital, interaction. And so these are very important jobs. Thank you for doing what you do. So let's transition back to our topic, AARP social media, digital marketing and integration. So when thinking about the many communications channels owned by AARP, why do you think AARP shares information via social media platforms?
Sure, I'll jump in here.
Okay.
Just at the most basic level, we're on social because our audience is on social. The 50 plus demographic is actually more socially and digitally engaged than ever before. Nearly half of older adults are using social media platforms every day. That differs from platform to platform, but that's everyday use for a lot of our membership and prospective members. And so for AARP, this is really an opportunity to reach and engage members, prospects, grow our audience, especially among the 50 to 60 age group, which has been a little bit harder to reach from, some of the more traditional ways of getting our messages out there. It's also a really great way for us to connect with people who may not be as familiar with AARP as people who, have been members for several years, or, a lot of people know AARP. They know the name, but they don't know what that means, all the things that we do. So this is a really great way on social to show people who we are, what we do, and importantly, how the AARP brand can fit into their life.
I'll just add, and it's really well put, but I told you how long I've been at AARP, and when I started, we were literally faxing or mailing press releases, right, to get our
Yes.
story out there. Or we were having in-person events with our volunteers and then hoping that they would go back, and be able to talk to their community and have what they need. So social media has just like opened this entire channel where not only can we reach our volunteers, our members, other people, we can also reach reporters, we can reach members of Congress. Like there's so much power in social media. So for where I sit on the advocacy side of things, we have such opportunity to really engage folks on the issues that matter and get people's attention too. So you don't have to rely on, folding and labeling all those hundreds of envelopes that I had to do back in the day.
Yeah, I will say I've been with AARP volunteering for about 8 years now. And even when I first started, there was a lot of the mail, the hard copy and that, and, the in-person events. And I agree, the social media has just really taken off for us to do presentations and reach a larger audience. So, okay, so can you share with our AARP staff and volunteers the premise behind using social media? And because there are different platforms used, are they individually focused on a particular audience, or do they all work to present to the same audiences? Is the social content the same for all platforms?
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
very different across different platforms, and it's also going to be
Okay.
different across the platforms that I manage and the ones that Jen's team jumps in on. But, for us on the national social side, Facebook still is our bread and butter. It's where we see we have our largest audience. We have over 2 million followers on our Facebook page there. It's where we see the most success in speaking about pretty much every issue area and topic that's of interest to our audience, from money and health, caregiving to lifestyle and entertainment content. It's a very flexible platform that allows us to, share content in a lot of different ways to reach people in the ways that they're most likely to engage with us. So, people who are the type who want to click through and read an article on the website, we can reach them. People who want to watch a video, we can reach them. So Facebook really is where we see the bulk of our success. We're also on LinkedIn, where we're hyper focused on topics relevant to the workplace. And that covers everything from helping older adults find jobs, resources for their job search, help people upskill and reskill. We also speak to employers there to, make some headway in getting better policies in the workplace. And we do a little bit of advocacy there as well. And we do a lot also in our fight against age discrimination on LinkedIn. So that's a really great platform for that sort of more narrow focus. And then lastly, on platforms like Instagram and TikTok, for my team, we're very focused on reaching Generation X. We take a little bit more of a lifestyle approach there, with the goal of enhancing perceptions of AARP among this demographic that might have an outdated perception of who AARP is, or they may not just know very much about us at all. So it's an opportunity for us to show them again that AARP is relevant to them in their current life stage. And one thing that we do a lot of on those channels is nostalgia content, and we get to have a lot of fun with that.
Huh. Exciting and wonderful. Jen, do you have anything to add for that
Yeah,
question?
I'll just add there's one other platform that we use a little more than Amanda does, and that's Twitter, which is now known as X. And it's definitely has gotten a little attention recently because of sort of the shift with ownership. But we have really also had a lot of success on Twitter because it is a little more newsy, advocacy, political minded. And so that for us has been that, what I referenced before, a way for us to get information out in front of what we call influencers in the advocacy world, which would be political reporters, health reporters, members of Congress, campaign staff, that kind of thing. So we don't do quite as much as we used to. It's changed a little bit. Like Amanda said, Facebook is really where our members are. And I think they also really are comfortable there, and they're really happy to comment and share. And so that becomes a really great place for us to see responses. So for example, if we post something about family caregiving and ask folks like, hey, are you a family caregiver? What do you wish you had known when you first started this journey? You can see all these comments right there in real time, and then other people responding to that. And it's really powerful.
Great, thanks. I think you probably answered my next question, but could you tell us where staff and volunteers can find AARP on social media? I know you've already talked about several of the channels and platforms, but is there anything else to add for that?
I think really we are in one way or another, whether it's the national channels, the channels Jen manages, there's also so many other channels across AARP that we haven't mentioned today, but pretty much Facebook, Twitter, or X, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, and YouTube also, I think is not one that I think either of our teams manage, but there is a YouTube presence for AARP as well.
Okay, great. And I think you've already mentioned this one. Some of the topics that receive the most views, I guess I'll let you, if you want to expand on that just a little bit. And is one social media site more of a favorite than others? I thought I heard you say maybe Facebook is where most of our people go, but if you could give us some of the topics that actually receive the most views.
Yeah,
Sure.
this will be fun. I'll jump in first.
Yeah.
So Social Security is our number one, right?
Right.
We know our members and our volunteers. I, as a Gen Xer, care deeply about Social Security, right? So that is always a really powerful, very strong. Anytime we're giving updates on Social Security, people are very interested and really engaged and have opinions about it. We're heading into an election year. You know, we are in an election year, but it will really start kicking into high gear soon. And so Social Security and family caregiving will be kind of our two important issues related to that. And so those are really key areas of focus, and we get a lot of engagement on both of those. But I will say, we had a big win recently in the past couple of years with prescription drugs and getting a lot of benefits into Medicare. So that was really exciting because that was a long fight, and we really were able to get people to engage, to reach out, to really help us get that victory. Wouldn't have been able to have done it without our volunteers and members fighting the good fight with us to get those benefits. So
It's good to hear. So how could staff and volunteers suggest content for use on our social media channels if they have a topic that they think would be of interest?
So for my side of things, we have a number of different strategists on the National Social team who kind of split up all of the different issue areas and programs that AARP has to offer. So the best way to do that, I think, would be to reach out to the strategist that covers that topic. And there's a lot of them. So I would say I would direct people to the brand social media team's Infonet page, where you will see a list of who's who and what they cover and how to reach them.
All right. Jen, did you have anything to add?
yeah, I think the Infonet page is a great place to start. I'll say, so I've rattled off kind of the priority issues for us. One of the things that volunteers have been amazing about, and staff, is really sharing their story with us on some of those key issues. So for example, we have a lot of family care. A lot of people take care of their loved ones, right? And so sharing kind of those experiences has been really incredible. We also always love to feature staff and volunteers in many ways. For example, for National Volunteer Month, we had some great video content featuring and thanking our volunteers. We also have staff serve as volunteer or spokespersons for us for some of our quick turn videos. So there's always the opportunity to get involved. And I would say the same as Amanda, check out the campaigns Infonet page and you'll see the contacts to reach out.
Okay, great. Thank you. So delving just a little bit deeper into the various platforms, do you collaborate with other organizations in the planning of information for the social media sites? And if so, what organizations do you work closely with as you look at the content for the social media sites?
So for our team, we don't very often collaborate with external groups, but we are working very closely with teams across AARP who are developing content, whether it's the AARP Studios team, the .org journalists, the impact teams and programs who work on each of our issue areas, and with Jen's team too. So we do a lot of internal collaboration to make sure that we really are showing the breadth of what AARP is doing for our members. We also want to work with people. We do share stories of our members, occasionally stories of our volunteers as well. That's something that performs really well on our channels, is those what we call real people stories. So that might be a time that we're collaborating a little bit more externally when we have opportunities to share stories like that.
Sure. Jan, did
Yeah,
you have
for
anything?
us, yeah, for us, we have collaborated on particular priority issues. We're obviously nonpartisan, so we're usually working with our government affairs colleagues. So, for example, we worked closely with Patients for Affordable Drugs when it came to the prescription drug campaign. And they really, just as they say, have a host of folks who are amazingly well spoken, sharing their story and their personal experience. And so they worked with us and we were honored to be able to film them and share those stories on our channels as well. But generally, if there's some coalition around one of our priority issues, we will, collaborate. But oftentimes, AARP, we're a big place. We have a lot of resources. We're often taking that lead and really sharing kind of our perspective on our channels and working with others to kind of elevate, amplify, but coming up with our own content.
Okay, thank you. Yes, AARP is a big place. I have been
You
to the
know.
offices in DC, and it is amazing how many offices there are in that building. So, and it's a wonderful building. So I guess we mentioned a few of the various channels and platforms that we use. I wondered about Sprout Social. I think I didn't hear that one mentioned earlier, but you do use Sprout Social, and is that more for the advocacy issues or?
Yeah, so Sprout Social is it's a pretty neat tool. So for us on the advocacy side, we've worked with Will Stoner and we did a pilot for engaging with advocacy volunteers or volunteers who want to share advocacy content on social media. And what's really neat about it, especially in a year like an election year where you're not quite sure what you should post, if it's okay, there's a lot of, hesitancy sometimes with even I've worked in this field for a long time. I'm a little like, oh, do I want to put this out there? Sprout Social really takes that guesswork out of it, right? So we're able to share links, we're able to share tweets or posts with that language right in there, have the right hashtag that acknowledges that you're a volunteer or an employee so that you can share that directly on your channels, and you can edit as you see fit, but at least you have that great starting place of that proper messaging. So that's been really neat. And some of the states have also done, set up their own teams on Sprout Social. And I think it really is a neat way because like you said, we're really big. There's a big office, but there's also a huge footprint on social media, right? So it can be, even if you follow, say, you follow the AARP accounts, you follow AARP advocates, you follow your state account, you might miss stuff, right? There's so much out there.
Exactly.
So this kind of helps give you a little digest of the key things that you want to know. What's the key thing that we're really pushing out this week? And then you can share it from there. So it's a really cool tool. And I know it's not just advocacy. So I know, the veterans and military group, they also share a lot of great content. And I think, there's that really cool way to see who's sharing more. And I won't say I'm competitive, but we'll see. Let's see how the year goes.
Exactly. I know the other area of interest to staff and volunteers, of course, is outcomes. And you've already touched on this, but it sounds like you feel that AARP has been very successful in providing information to the public and staff and volunteers via social media. And I didn't know if you wanted to add a little bit more about that or not, but
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a incredibly effective tool for reaching and engaging AARP's audiences. It really can't be underestimated. Last year, for example, the national social channels alone reached 382 million impressions across the
wow.
channels that I mentioned. We drove 27 million engagements, 113 million video views. So the audience is there and they're very interested in what we have to offer. So it's really a tool that we should be leaning into and making use of. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier too, but it's also a really successful tool for reaching who I think is the next generation of AARP members, Generation X, through these strategies and helping them see a different side of AARP and understand where we fit into their lives.
Perfect.
I'll just chime in there to say it's also incredible to see how things move from social media off social media, right? And so sometimes just being on social media gets you into, say, the traditional news. So in the past, our tweets have been in news articles or they've been shared on those Sunday morning, political talk shows. We've also been amazed at the number of folks who say, comment or engage with us and then wind up really sharing their story, filming a video for us, becoming a volunteer, testify at a hearing. Like it is really, really powerful because, the bottom line is these are real people and a lot of folks feel invisible these days, right? They don't feel like they have their voice heard. And it really is, yes, there is the other side. Sometimes you're like, some people maybe don't need to talk that much on social media, but overall, it's a really powerful way to have a conversation too, and to feel that you get to raise your voice and in a positive way as well.
It's also,
Right.
I'll add one more thing. It's also a great way not only for us to connect with our audience, but also to help our audience connect with each other, the AARP community connect with each other. And so one thing we didn't really talk about much today because it's managed by a team, not mine or Jen's, but the specialized content team, for example, runs a number of really successful Facebook groups that allow people who have some more niche interests to connect with each other. We have the AARP caregivers Facebook group, allowing them to, share their experiences on their caregiving journeys. There's the Girlfriends Book Club, and there's the Ethel Circle that is allowing, older women around the country to create these like local groups where they're connecting with each other. So there's a lot of opportunity on social to also be social and connect with one another, and AARP can be a place to foster that as well.
Great. Oh, perfect. So much information. So, as we bring our podcast to a close, is there anything else that you wanted to share? Just one last opportunity for you to say anything else that you didn't get said.
The only thing I would say is definitely if you haven't checked out our social media accounts, get out there and look. AARP is doing so much, from the flagship channels to the advocacy channels, to all of these different community channels. It's really a great way to not only keep up with the content that AARP is producing and putting out there, but also the stories and news and information that our members really care about. So it's a good way to keep your finger on the pulse of the AARP membership too.
I love that.
Wonderful.
And I think if I were to leave with anything, it's that I think sometimes social media does have that reputation of there's nothing, it's too much, right? There's too much yelling, too much arguing, too much nonsense. But honestly, what we strive to do, and I think we do a great job, is to really provide information that people need, opportunities to engage, opportunities to take action, and folks should absolutely be following their AARP advocates and their state account as well, because then you'll have such a great experience on social, right? We're here for you, and we're really excited to engage with our folks on all these channels.
Okay, wonderful.